Hey everybody, welcome back to the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. I'm your host, Gordo Gambles, and welcome back to our full card breakdown. This time for UFC Vegas 98. We're almost at the 100 mark, and we have ourselves a nice 13-fight card from the Apex. I'll be honest with you guys, I just recorded the whole video, just talked about everything, and then I had no audio with it, so I can't even edit it. My laptop even died on me. This is just a brick right now. So we're talking face to face. We're set up here on my phone where everything will be okay. We're going to talk through this card. We'll go spick and span, get through it all. Some good fights. Excited to see how we can break it down from both a betting and a DraftKings perspective. So bear with me on the video quality, but we will still go out there and give you my thoughts on the card. As always, make sure to check out Established Run, some premium DraftKings content. Check out Cool Bet for some betting and some great lines using code Gordo in the description down below. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's do this. The very first fight of the night, we have the 5-3 Junior Taffa taking on short notice replacement 4-0 Sean Sherov. Sherov, former U.S. Marine. I could only see like 2 minutes of fight tape on the guy. Looks to be powerful, looks to be a big boxer, but Junior Taffa's finally getting the matchup he wants, which is a striking affair. Every loss Taffa's had has come to either a wrestler, a jiu-jitsu guy, or leg kicks, and now he's finally getting someone who will be a primary boxer. Although I have not seen enough from Sherov to say this with a ton of confidence, I do think that Taffa is someone who I can trust to be a durable fighter who will have good hand speed, who will look to engage in these spots here. And I have seen more from him to know that he can withstand damage, to know that he can go 15 minutes. And I favor Taffa as the fight goes on. Again, I have not seen enough from Sherov to be extremely confident on it, but do think Taffa is more likely going to be the better striker with better volume, better durability, and better cardio. I do favor him as the fight goes on. If I saw some grappling from Sherov, maybe I'd take him, but I do pick Junior Taffa here. No line to really know how it goes from here. DraftKings-wise, though, because Taffa is so boomer bust, because so KO-dependent early on, I'll probably be playing some of him in GVP, but mostly staying away. I prefer my other grapplers that we will get to later on the slate. And Sherov, don't know his salary. If he's cheap enough, maybe I'll take a punt, but more times than not, I think I'll probably stay away from this fight because I don't know enough about it to really see it. I would have liked to see some Huggy Barnett go out there, but the pick is Junior Taffa. McKenna versus Polastri. 8-3 McKenna has made some questionable decisions inside the cage, but someone who has been typically a larger favorite here. She is someone who was a favorite to Amarim, who was a favorite in multiple spots here because she's pretty well-rounded. She doesn't have the most physicality, doesn't have the best pure hand speed or striking, but a very solid grappler, able to compete in the feet as well. And she is facing someone in Julia Polastri who had a decent showing last time, someone who I rate highly in Knutson, but someone who is going to be a primary striker, who does utilize that range pretty well, who is a pretty solid striker from distance, and who did incorporate some wrestling last time. But we have seen her taken down, we have seen her controlled, and McKenna is still someone who I rate pretty highly, 25 years old, still making improvements. So Polastri being someone who has been dominated on the mat, who has been taken down, controlled. I'm going to side with the dog here, McKenna. I think it's interesting to make her such a wide favorite against some other fighters, to now making her a plus 125 dog here against someone who I don't rate as highly. I think McKenna can compete, and the difference in the offensive wrestling is a lot wider than what it is in the striking. However, due to the, let's say, mistakes in IQ and other stuff like that, do not want much McKenna from a moneyline perspective. DraftKings-wise, we'll play some McKenna because she is at a dog price tag, but Polastri without grappling upside, without finishing upside, and not getting into her too often, I do think this is a fight you can skip past. 9-2, Dan Aretta versus 7-1, Cody Haden. Cody Haden just fought on Dynamite Contender Series. We have been doing pretty well in Contender Series, so love to see all that kind of stuff. Love to see him here. He was pretty well-rounded. He impressed me last time, club and sub victory, but he faces UFC vet at this point, Dan Aretta. Dan Aretta, a primary wrestler, landed, 9 takedowns last time before he submitted in that second round. A guy who will be aggressive, and the one thing I've seen about Cody Haden is he can give up the back. He can be stalled from that back position, albeit to some pretty good level of competition. I do think this line is wide. I do think Dan Aretta should be closer to evens here, having more experience, having that path to victory on the ground, and having the ability to go out there and wrestle at a high clip. However, gun to my head, I did pick Cody Haden. I do think he has better cardio as the fight goes on. He did get tired against Urseg, but that was allegedly on short notice. And I do think Haden, although having the just as good hand speed and solid power on the feet, is able to win moments on the feet here. Whereas although Dan Aretta has a path to winning on the ground, I do think Haden can scramble pretty well as long as he is chest to chest. Would not be surprised if Aretta is able to win some grappling exchanges, and for that reason, I'll probably play some Aretta on DraftKings this weekend at a pretty cheap price tag to go out there and play him. But gun to my head, I did pick someone and Haden to get it done. I do think it's a pretty fun fight. I do think maybe Aretta should get a bit more respect, and that's why I'll probably be playing him. 7.5K, like I mentioned. He's landed 9 takedowns, landed 4 in a fight before that. I do think if Dan Aretta wins, it is most likely grappling dependent, and for that reason, I do want some of him on DraftKings. However, I did end up picking Cody Haden. This next one's probably my favorite fight in the card. Honestly, I love me some JSP. Jonathan Pierce, 14-6, 18-5, Pat Sabatini. Pierce, 8.2K this week, and we're going to start right on DraftKings because he has historically been one of the best DraftKings scorers ever, pretty much. 145 against Americani, 123 against Morales, 134 against Kamaka. This guy's style, because he is a very aggressive fighter, very aggressive grappler with not the most control, is someone who scores well in DraftKings. He has a ton of volume, very good cardio, very good ability to push the pace, but his biggest flaw has been lack of control on the ground and putting his neck in bad situations, being submitted there. And now he faces a guy here in Sabatini who will look to submit you, whose best aspect of his game is that ground game. So it makes it a very, very interesting dynamic. Gun to my head, I ended up picking JSP because I think he has better durability, I think he has better cardio, I think he can win the optics on the feet. However, as I expect Pierce's money line to shoot up, which it has this week, and as I do think that Pierce will likely be the more popular option on DraftKings this week, Sabatini is very intriguing because I do not think Sabatini wins this fight if it gets extended. I think he wins this fight and potentially in early grappling exchanges if he were to win, the same way Brito did to Pierce. Hop on something. Sabatini is a very good opportunistic grappler, so I do think he has a path to a 95, 100-point first-round submission win. However, the longer this fight goes, the more it favors the grappling heavy pace, the potential boxing, and better durability of someone like Pierce, and I do think he takes over the fight goes. I did pick Pierce. However, both his fighters are great options on DraftKings, whether it be the pace of Pierce or the round one submission upside of someone like Sabatini. Should be a fantastic fight, and I am very much looking forward to it. We are flying through these ones. I will try to keep it, again, quicker to the point this week, but make sure I'm not talking too fast. You know, the French side of me can sometimes start speaking quickly. But we have the 12-5-1 CJ Vergara versus the 17-2 Ramazan Tamirov. Tamirov making his debut on the regional scene, looks like a guy who has fought some weaker competition, but is just looking to take their head off, swinging with fight, ending intention. Isn't the classic grappler you see from that part of the world, but someone who wants to go out there and take your head off. He can wrestle if he wants to, but is mostly lower output, looking to win the moments instead of the minutes. And he faces a guy, CJ Vergara, who is kind of the opposite. Tamirov is a guy who wants to go out there, take your head off. Vergara is the type of guy who wants to go out there and win a decision. And Vergara does have good cardio. He does have good volume, but that's really it. Not the best hand speed, not the most power on the feet, not the best offensive wrestling either, but someone who will be in there for all 15 minutes. And if you do not come prepared cardio-wise or prepared mentally, will look to break you. So this fight's pretty simple to me. I think that it's either going to be Tamirov going in there early, landing that knockout shot. Vergara was rocked by some lesser opponents, and I do think that is a path for Tamirov, but the longer the fight goes, the more it favors someone like Vergara, who does have solid cardio, who does push a solid pace. And if Tamirov does not have the cardio to sustain that, I do think Vergara will look to potentially win the later rounds. So Tamirov early, Vergara late. I do favor Tamirov. I do think he's able to land those big shots and win the moments, potentially even getting a knockout there as well, because like I said, for 125, this guy is a powerful, powerful dude. So give me Tamirov this week. It should be a fun fight. Next up, 7-0. Oh, DraftKings-wise. DraftKings-wise in this one, Tamirov 9.1K. This is a loaded 9K range. Taira, Garimbo, Dawson, Carpenter, a ton of options. Tamirov has a lot of round one win equity, so he's a good contrarian play, but I do prefer other options straight up this week, especially if you're playing single entry. He does not jump out as much. And Vergara, I don't think he gets a finish. I don't think he has much grappling equity, and for that reason, does not stand out in that bottom range. Now we move on. 7-0, Clayton Carpenter. 17-1, Lucas Rocha. I like Carpenter. He hasn't fought since February of last year, but a guy who I do rate pretty highly. Was able to go out there, get a first-round sub over Ronderos, has since dealt with some health issues, but a guy who is pretty well-rounded, very good volume, very good pace, very good boxing, and great wrestling as well. He was able to utilize that in his last fight, has attempted takedowns every single round of his UFC career. Facing a guy Rocha who is a bit of the opposite. Carpenter is very technical. He wants to go out there, work through his thought process, land takedowns, land damage on the feet. And Rocha is kind of the opposite. Rocha wants to go out there and take your head off, and he doesn't do much so with much technicality. He doesn't go out there and think through everything. He just wants to swing for the fences. Great knees. He was able to land a knockout last time, but he was controlling that fight. He was winning optics. And I do think it's a spot where Clayton Carpenter should be winning this fight until he's potentially not. And not like Bittencourt, though, last time. I do think Carpenter has the ability to stay safe for as long as the fight goes. I think he's able to compete in the feet, and I do think that the difference and the discrepancy in the grappling is a lot larger than it is in the striking. So therefore, I do favor someone like Carpenter. I do think he's able to go out there and land takedowns, even on the feet. I do think he has the technicality and the countering to go over there and beat someone like Rocha. I do like Clayton Carpenter. He looks a lot younger than 28, but he still is making improvements, and I do think he's got a very good technical base and ceiling here in this division. I like Clayton Carpenter. I think he goes out there and wrestles. And because he goes out there and wrestles, 8.8K this week, he scored 98 in his first win, and I do think he has wrestling upside. On a card like this, where a lot of people are probably going to go towards the Tairas, Garimbos, Dawsons up top, and then play the Inoja Kwani and Al Hassans in the mid-range, 8.8K Clayton Carpenter was one of my favorite pivot options in this mid-range. He's got grappling upside. I don't think many people are talking about this fight, and I do think Carpenter has the ability to go out there, land 4 or 5 takedowns, and score very well in DraftKings, so I am liking him 8.8K. In theory, Roche is a good play at 7.4 because I just outlined he wants to take your head off. He is a finish or bust prospect, so therefore he does have some upside. I just don't think he wins that often, so I'm on our Carpenter. One of my favorite mid-range plays at 8.8K. He should be able to go out there and get it done with a wrestle-heavy style. Next up, 16-7, Niko Price, the prelim headliner versus the 13-4 Themba Kimbo. And this is a fight I broke down with Brett pretty extensively. And it's interesting because there's no debate that Niko Price has fought the better level of competition. There's no debate this is the best opponent that Themba Kimbo has fought. And Price is dangerous small areas. He's got ability to knock people out from weird angles. He's got good cardio, he's able to push the pace. But I still have to think Themba Kimbo is someone the UFC wants to promote, someone who the UFC has done shows about The Rock giving this guy a house, right? And now he's here facing a guy, Niko Price, who's been knocked out in 4 of his last 5 fights, who can be taken down, who can be put on his back, who can be dominating these positions. And with the work rate Themba Kimbo has, it only seems to make sense that they're setting up Kimbo to go out here and have success. When it comes down here to playing these guys from a money line perspective, I think this line is wide. I think more times than not, Price can stop the takedowns, facing this lower level competition than usual, and have some potential success here. But when it comes to DraftKings, Themba Kimbo rates out as a great play because I do think Themba Kimbo's path to victory, such as it's done so far in the UFC, is to kind of bull rush people, potentially go out there, land takedowns, potentially go out there, find that KO shot. He's super aggressive, and that can sometimes get him caught against his higher level of competition. I just think at 35, with all the miles Price has in his chin, this seems like a matchup Kimbo should win, whether it be by KO, touching the chin here the same way Lawler did, or pushing a wrestle-heavy pace, taking him down, looking to wear on him and score really well on DraftKings. I do have to favor Kimbo here in this matchup. However, I do not think it should be to this extent of the money line. DraftKings-wise, 9.2K. Kimbo in his 3 wins scored 109, 130, 113. Has not fought anyone of the caliber of Niko Price, but Niko Price, if he loses, either getting knocked out or getting controlled on the ground. And I do think both those paths to victories allow for a super high ceiling for Kimbo. Kimbo and Taira are 2 of my favorite GVP options. He has such a high ceiling this week. Not the safest floor, but in GVP formats, a very high ceiling, and I will be playing lots of Kimbo. And conversely, I'll be playing a lot of Price as well. This is a fight I'll be very heavily invested in on DraftKings because I do think Price is the best opponent Kimbo's fought. And although the ceiling and the win for Kimbo scores very well, I don't think there's a 0 chance Price wins here. I think Price has the ability to go out there and potentially counter Kimbo, stuff some takedowns and make him competitive on the feet. It should be a very fun fight. I am picking Kimbo. I think he's got a phenomenal ceiling on DraftKings, but I will be playing this from both sides. On to the main card, a super tough one for me to call here. 17-5, Daniel Rodriguez, 24-10, Alex Marino. I get Rodriguez being the favorite. He's got great volume. Marino's had some chin deficiencies. Marino been controlled on the ground again recently. And Rodriguez has shown the ability to go out there and push a boxing-heavy pace for 15 minutes. But I'll come right off the bat and say I think this line's wide. Alex Marino also has the ability to go out there and wrestle. Also has the ability to go out there and strike, is a very good volume striker, has the ability to mix it up in all facets, and can even go out there and wrestle as well. He has not done it that often, but he has shown that he can go out there and switch up his game plan if he has to. And I do think he is someone who can definitely compete in the boxing with Rodriguez. I think Marino throws more kicks. He's able to dictate range. I do favor the volume and potentially even the durability of someone like Rodriguez. But to say that at a minus 205 price tag is a bit wide for me. And I do think that Alex Marino should get some more love potentially in the betting market. But to me, this is a really interesting matchup. As much as I find it interesting, much think it's going to be a fun one for fans. Not my favorite one on DraftKings at all. I just talked about how all in I am on Kimbo because it's either going to be Kimbo by pure aggression and smashing him on DraftKings, or Price at 7K going out there pulling off an upset win and scoring very well. This is one I see going all 15, whether it be the volume of Rodriguez getting it done or potentially wrestling from Marino. I don't think either winner scores very well. I think there's better fights to target. I will have some Marino because, like I said, I think the line is wide. So if I'm right and he goes out there and wrestles, he could score well, but not a fight I want too much interest in. I did pick Rodriguez really close, but I'm very tempted on Marino. That might even change. There's something about it that I think Marino can have more success than the line entails. Main card, again, 11-6, Josh Fremd, 12-6, Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Josh Fremd just has some pretty horrible metrics on paper. 25% takedown accuracy. So you expect him to go out there and stand and bang, and in doing so, with someone like Abdul Razak Al Hassan, who's all but one of his wins have come by first round knockout, is just insane. He got Cody Brundage just last time, meaning he was winning the fight until Cody Brundage pulled a Cody Brundage, and what Al-Hassan showed in that fight is he's extremely dangerous for that first round. He goes out there, throws fighting any attention, and that's his style. He's going to gas out after the fact, but he is someone who can take your head off round one, a ton of power, pretty good hips on the takedown defense as well early on. And although that deteriorates as the fight goes on, is someone who is extremely dangerous in that first round. And Josh Fremd, although someone who has shown decent durability, has shown the ability to go out there later, 47% striking defense, someone who absorbs damage, who has not fought anyone really with the power of a Razak Al-Hassan, maybe a Tresean Gore, but that fight still ended in a win for Tresean Gore. This is just a fight that I don't expect there to be much competition round one. The hand speed, the power, the forward pressure, the takedown defense, someone like Razak Al-Hassan should carry him to victory early on, and I do think 90% of the time Razak wins that first round. The question is, can he get him out of there? If he does, of course he wins, but as the fight goes on, I do expect the cardio for him to take over. It's still going to be moments versus minutes here. I have to favor Razak Al-Hassan. I have to pick him to win here. It's never fun backing a 39-year-old round one or bust guy at chalk, but I did end up doing so. He is my pick to win. DraftKings-wise, also a very intriguing option. 8.4K. He has scored very well on his wins. 95, 125, 131, 106. Round one KO or bust. A ton of power in his hands, and is someone who I do think can get a finish here. Is a very good GP option at mid-range, but again, a very low floor, so be careful the way you roster him. I do think he should be decently popular. Fremd, like I said, 25% takedown defense. I don't think he goes out there and dominates this fight, so I'm not getting to him too often. I think it's Al-Hassan early or pass in this one. Continuing on, we have the 23-10 Chidi and Kwani, 23-9 Jared Gooden. A fight between two very similar fighters, two guys who are extremely power or bust. Strikers want to keep on the feet, who are very, very dangerous, but in two different ways. Chidi Kwani is dangerous because he is so powerful, an athletic freak of nature, can take your head off at any time. Just ask the uber durable Marc-Andre Barrio. But all the ways he is dangerous, Gooden is dangerous for different reasons. Gooden can still hit hard, but he is more of a death by 1,000 cuts, right? A guy who wants to go out there, can land a ton of damage, has a ton of volume, a ton of heart, ton of resiliency. And although I don't like saying this about fighters, I think Gooden is someone who can fight through adversity a little bit better than Kwani. And for that reason, I did end up siding with Jared Gooden this week. It is a bit dangerous because, both these guys can be hit, can be hurt in the feet, but in a fight that I think takes place in the feet between two kickboxers who want to go out there and take your head off, although Kwani is an athletic freak of nature who can fight from range and can knock you out, I prefer Gooden's heart. I prefer his durability. I prefer his volume. I prefer his ability to go out there and push through adversity, to go and break someone like Kwani, who we have seen broken before. And I see the guy who is still going to be in there throwing bombs in that second or third round is going to be someone like Gooden. I think it's going to be a very competitive fight. I am just favoring the minutes versus the moments of someone like Gooden here. And I just think that it's a bit unjust to make him a plus 150 underdog here. So taking a shot on Gooden. Because of that, a solid play on DraftKings, 7.6K. His last win scored 98. Before that, scored 112. Excuse me. A very, very solid high upside fighter who will throw volume, who has knockout upside. I like him as underdog this week. And Kwani, similar to Razak Al-Hassan, I think is early KO or bust, and someone who I do think has a very high ceiling in GE formats if you can get it over to roster him. I do prefer the Razak Al-Hassan side, but I do think Kwani is a solid contrarian play in that mid-range. On to the next one, 21-2-1 Grant Dawson, 16-3 Rafa Garcia. Another fun fight, the largest favorite on the card here in Dawson, and one that I don't have the strongest read on, but one where I did end up picking Grant Dawson. I like Rafa Garcia. I think he's got a ton of volume, and he's got a ton of pace, and he has been able to upset some people with the ability to go out there and push a heavy pace 15 minutes, look to break people. I just think that's not the way you beat Grant Dawson. Grant Dawson is being able to go out there and out-wrestle the wrestlers, out-wrestle a Marco Madsen, out-wrestle a Damir Ismagulov, that's the name I was looking for. And although Rafa Garcia has the prototype to go out there and do things similar to Grant Dawson, you don't beat Grant Dawson that way. You beat Grant Dawson by having solid cardio in that third round and potentially finding the chin. Grant Dawson's chin has been hurt. Bobby Green knocked him out. But if you're going to go out there and look to wrestle with Grant Dawson, he beats people to positions. He's great at back takes, and he has proven time and time again he will just out-muscle, outwork you, and out-wrestle you. And I just think he's got a high level of competition, fights a better camp, but just has better pure wrestling than someone like Rafa Garcia, who will go out there. And I do think that allows for some control time and Dawson to win this fight at a high clip. If Garcia had more one-shot power, maybe he'd be able to find the chin, but I do think Dawson has the ability to go out there and win this fight, and I think he's able to utilize his grappling to do so. He had, 14 and a half minutes of control time last time. Maybe Garcia will make him work and score better on DraftKings, but I do think it's a spot. Grant Dawson mostly wins this one by decision. utilizing that top control, utilizing that very good wrestling, and go out there in this fight. Enough to score this and price him at 9.5K on DraftKings? Probably not. I think he's a very solid play. In cash, I'm getting to him all the time. I think he wins this fight at a high clip, and I think he probably scores around 9,500 points. But is that enough on a slate like this when you have Tatsuro Taira, who has 5 rounds to work, when you have Themba Garimbo, who has an older Niko price in front of him, or even the KO upside of someone like Tafa or Tamarov or Carpenter? I think Dawson is very, very viable. He just might get priced off the optimal lineup, especially with a lack of finishing upside. So I like Dawson, playing him in cash. I think he's a fine option as top range. Just not my favorite overall play this week. On to the co-main event, 20-9, Brad Tavares, 17-6, Jun Young Park. Not much to say on this one. You have an aggressive guy in Jun Young Park who can wrestle, who can strike, can throw volume, versus a technical kickboxer with great takedown defense of Brad Tavares. Not if I want too much involvement in. I think I picked Jun Young Park because he has more activity, more volume, more paths to getting it done, but Tavares has shown time and time again he can stuff takedowns, so you can counter-strike on the feet. The reason I don't have too much to say about this one is because every fight Tavares has just does not score well on DraftKings. He is a horrible DraftKings scorer, has not scored over 80 points since 2017, I think it is. Not a very good DraftKings scorer by any means, and in doing so limits his opponents as well because he is so low volume, because he doesn't want to go out there and just defend takedowns and counter-strike. So not a guy who I think goes out there and allows many points. If I'm playing either side on DraftKings, it's probably the Park because he has scored 109, 112, 101 in his last 3 wins. That is a very much better upside than someone like Tavares this week. So if I had to play either side, it'd be him. But due to the style of Tavares, I think more times than not, it is a point fighting, counter striking battle. And in doing so, I think potentially Jung Park has more volume upside here to potentially win the optics and maybe even mix in some takedowns. But not a fight I want too much involvement in. I did pick Park, but not the best DraftKings option. All right, and we get on to the main event now. Be sure to like button down below. Subscribe to the channel. Almost there. 16-7, Brandon Royval. 16-0, Tatsuro Taira. Excuse me. Raw Dog Royval is a guy who goes out there and looks to fight and succeed amidst the chaos, whereas Tatsuro Taira is someone who wants to be technical, one of the best technical fighters, a guy who's just been brilliant so far. He has not really shown many signs of weakness at all inside the UFC, but makes for a very interesting matchup. Is it going to be the pressure and the chaos and the hecticness of Brandon Royval, who finally allows Taira to make a mistake? We have never seen Taira face really the resistance or be put in position that Royval is going to put him, or be pressured the way that Royval is going to pressure him. I definitely think this is a spot where I don't think Taira is a super max goat whale lock play. I do think Royval is very live. But I'm going to have to pick Taira here. For all the reasons I just went out there and mentioned that Royval can have success, it's also a reason that he puts himself in places to be hurt. He's extremely reckless. He goes out there and he swings from the hips. He fights with reckless abandon, pushes forward. He scrambles a lot on the mat, allows himself to be taken down. And I just think the technicality, the precision, and just the smarts of Taira to think through all these spots he's put in is just too much. This guy seems to be the real deal. He's very physical. He's very strong. And he reads through all these scrambles really well on the mat. I think he's got the opportunity to go out there and land takedowns of Brandon Royval, is easily taken down, stay safe from top position. And even on the feet, the way that Brandon Royval rushes forward, I do think Taira can land some powerful shots as well. So although I alluded to Royval potentially being live in terms of causing chaos and putting Taira in positions we have never seen before, at the end of the day, I do have to favor Taira as someone who is just far more technical, who will be able to counter-strike here, who will be able to land takedowns, stay safe on top, and potentially even take the back in these scrambles. Taira has flowed very, very well in these spots here, and Royval is someone who I do think leaves himself for openings. Like I said, he thrives in the chaos, but this chaos does incite himself to be put in some bad positions as well. So I do think Taira's a real deal. I do think he's here for the top. I'm picking him to win, but I definitely have some danger about it here. But I do think that's a very, very fun fight. DraftKings-wise, Taira is my favorite fight in the entire slate. 9K, 5 rounds to work, averages 100 points. I just think he has the opportunity to go out there, land takedowns at will, a ton of volume, has even finish upside, but also 5 rounds to work. At 9K, there's also 4 fighters priced above him, but I'm on Taira here. I will not be 100% to Taira, and that's because I'll have some Royval as well. Royval just scored 90 points in a loss, 100 points in a win. The guy fights at such a high pace that if he does win, he'll score very well. I just don't think he does. So a fight I want both sides of, I choose Taira, and I do think he gets it done. Combinations of Taira, Carpenter, Garimbo, or Taira, Carpenter, Dawson, Taira, Garimbo. Like, That's the way I'm playing this top range. I prefer my wrestlers, prefer my people like Taira up top, and I do think there's some viable underdogs. But that's going to do it for me here on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. And quickly running through my quick picks, taking Tatsuro, Taira, Jung Young Park, Grant Dawson, Jaron Gooden, Abdul Razak Al Hassan, Alex. Ooh, I almost said Alex Marino. Daniel Rodriguez. I do think that one's really close. Themba Garimbo, Clayton Carpenter, Ramazan Temirov, Jonathan Pierce, Cody Haden, Corey McKenna, and Junior Tafa. DraftKings-wise, up top, as I mentioned, I love Taira this week. I think GBP-wise, Garimbo's got a very high ceiling, and Carpenter has a very high ceiling, and those are two guys I like to be different. And then cash-wise, I think Dawson is pretty safe up top as well. Mid-range, Razak Al Hassan has a ton of GBP upside with his first-round knockout upside, as well as that Pierce versus Sabatini fight. I either think it's going to be Pierce with pressure, takedowns, potentially taking over late, or even finding a knockout on the feet, as Sabatini is pretty fragile. Or I think Sabatini is very live at lower ownership to be a bit contrarian, to go out there and catch the sub of Pierce. I think his win condition scores very well. Don't think he gets it too often. When he does, scores very well. Underdog-wise, I think McKenna has takedown upside, but I more so prefer the upside of the KO of Gooden, or the pace that Royval brings, or even the wrestling upside of something like Aretta. Gooden, Aretta, and Royval in a win, I think, all score over 100 points and all break the slate. So people I like very much. And punting down low, I think my favorite punt option this week is probably Price. I said how much I love Garimbo, but I do think in a win, Price scores very well as well. Is the best competition Garimbo has faced. I think if you're punting this week is a good way to go. No Rainmakers. That's going to do it DraftKings-wise. Last but not least, bets this week. I have nothing locked in yet. We're coming off a nice 4.6 unit night for Dana White Contender Series, so make sure to check us out next week for episode 10 and the last one this season. But make sure to check me out also on Twitter at GamblesGordo for the rest of my bets, or actually any bets that I will play for this week. I appreciate you all for tuning in. If you guys have any questions, please leave in the comment section down below. Be sure to check out Established Run. Be sure to check out Cool Bet. I apologize for the last minute stream. I had technical difficulties, so the video quality will be back to normal next week. I promise you that. But I wish everyone the best of luck on your DraftKings and betting endeavors, guys, and let's make some money. Peace.